Welcome to the Home Education with Ease podcast. I'm your host, Christine Furman, a homeschool mom, entrepreneur, and educator with over 20 years of experience in the areas of elementary and special education. It's my mission to help you create lifelong learners and embrace a holistic approach to education at home. I'll be sharing practical strategies, inspiration, and resources to support your family. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom, a business owner, or balancing work and homeschool, you're in the right place to connect with a community that values education just as much as you do. Join us each week as we ditch the stress, embrace the joy of learning, and set your family up for a lifetime of success. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to another episode of the Home Education with Ease podcast. I'm your host, Christine Furman, your home education expert. And this week, I have a very special guest. All of my guests are very special. I say that all the time, but each one is so special to me. And today, I have a special guest, and we're going to do this a little bit different. It's going to be like an interview for her, and then she's going to be interviewing me because this episode is also going to air on her podcast. So it's going to be a little different. So without further ado, I would love to introduce you, Miriam Workman. She's the host of Confidence in Motherhood. I knew I was going to say it wrong. Confidence in Motherhood. And that's her podcast. So this is going to air on both of our podcasts. And we're just going to have a casual conversation because we have so many principles and values and our stories align so well that I think it's just going to be a great conversation for everyone. Well, thank you, Miriam, so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Christine. I'm very excited to have this conversation because I know there are a lot of parents trying to balance life with homeschooling, motherhood, and I know that this conversation is going to bring some encouragement and just a reminder that they are not alone.
Yes, absolutely. That is something that I have been leaning into so much because so many times I talk to families and they're like, how do we do this? Where do we start? What do we do? I feel like I'm the only one going through this situation. And I'm like, I can assure you, I talk to many, many families, and I know that you are not the only one going through this situation. And how do we help how do we help those families to be able to navigate parenthood, motherhood, right? Of all ages. You are working more with preteens and teens because that's where your girls are now, right?
Yes.
And my kids are at that age too. They're 9 and 11, so they're getting close, that preteen age. But I love working with families from the very beginning, that preschool age, setting up those routines, setting up that structure at a very young age. So then that way, when we get to the preteen stage, we've already established the expectations. We've already established the routines and the consequences and what does life look like with our kiddos. So then that way, when we get to these stages, it's allowed to be a little easier. It doesn't have to be so hard. So I think we're going to talk a lot about that with you, right, today?
Yes, we are.
Yes, and I'm very excited about that. So do you want to give a little intro about yourself, kind of your background? And we're going to share how we met because we were talking off air and I was like, how did we even meet? And because I remember, I was like, I know that I messaged her, but I'm sure I didn't just message someone and say, hey, let's meet up for lunch, But so go ahead, share a little bit more about your story, your background, and what led you to start your podcast.
Yes. So I am a Christian homeschool mom of a teen and a preteen, and I'm the host of Confidence in Motherhood podcast. And my journey started where a few years ago, after losing my mom, I realized okay, what is my legacy? What am I doing as a mom? Because I was just on the to-do list, I have to burn out, overwhelm, so many not happy feelings in my life. So I started getting some training, and then I started learning for myself. I want to be a better parent. I want a legacy. In order to do that, I need to be intentional. And then when I was in the process of learning, I started looking like, because this is real, this is present, this is fresh. I was seeing around me, it's like, oh, if they just know what they're doing with their children, the impact, even moms and dads. And then I started coaching people, I was so excited, like, okay, this is transformation, just this simple habit, this simple trick. And then I started coaching people, and just to understand that sometimes we don't have the tools, but you just need the tools, and then just simple habits, daily habits, that it really will transform your relationship with your children and the legacy that you want to establish and leave.
Yes, so true. So, so true. So can you tell our listeners where you're from? I know your listeners probably know your story, but my listeners, where are you from? And a little bit about that, because my kids learned Spanish from you. That was one of the connections that we had. You were offering Spanish classes, and my kids loved coming to your classes. So if you want to share a little bit about that.
Yes. Okay, I'm from Mexico. I grew up in Mexico, and I used to own a restaurant, a business, when I was 22. So I have a sister who lives here in the United States, and I come to visit. And then I met my husband, my now husband. So I was traveling back and forth, and then I moved here to the United States when I got married. So I did all my studies, work, and everything in Mexico. So now, and we met because now I'm teaching Spanish classes to elementary grade kids. And sometimes I do some, I just finished a homeschool class where I was teaching high school Spanish. So yes, we met through Facebook marketing.
That's right. So we actually met through Facebook marketing because my daughter at the time was into Babysitter Club books. And I started just looking on Facebook for looking for books and deals and everything. And you had some, and I came out and I met you. And then we just stayed connected from there. And we met up and had lunch probably 6 months later. I mean, it was a while later. And I remember hearing your story of like how you ran a restaurant and just your family and the business and the entrepreneurship. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And then you were going through all of your coaching and your training and all of that. And a lot of times too, it's so nice, knowing that we're not alone, right? As moms in business and homeschooling, sometimes we're like, are we the only one doing all the things, So it's also so nice to be able to connect with other moms in business, because then we know the journey. We know that it is hard. We know that there are a lot of pieces of the puzzle. And just like you said, we have to be intentional, and that is something that I've learned so much over the past, 10 years even. But even more so in the last 5 years is like, you've got to be intentional. If you want to start making a change, if you want to build that legacy, you've got to be intentional with it. And a lot of times that's going against the grain. It's doing things differently than everyone else is doing. And it's hard. And it's like lonely sometimes,
Yes.
But you got to find your community. You've got to find your people. And that has really helped to build us up to say, hey, this is something that I'm going through. What's something that you're working on, and what are you going through in this time? And I think that goes for moms at any age, right?
Yes.
Think about when we had babies, it was like, oh, they won't eat, they won't sleep. What do? I just want to shower, and we feel like we're the only ones going through that at the time. When in reality, when we start talking to other moms, they're going through it too, So how did you lead into starting your podcast, and what are the core principles that you really want to get out for the families?
Yes. It's what I said, that I would start looking at parents, like, if you really understand what you are doing, like, you can impact, and sometimes the impact is not very good. Mm-hmm. So then is when I saw the gap that, and I was there. I didn't have tools and resources. I knew that I was a good mom, but I knew there were areas that I didn't like it, that I wanted to improve it, that I needed to enjoy it. And right now I can tell you sincerely, I enjoy motherhood. Easy? Not.
Right.
It's not easy. It's not easy. Hard days? Yes, I do have those. Sometimes I get overwhelmed. Sometimes I get burnt out, but I know how to spot it. I know how to change it, and I know how to repair. I know how to be intentional. And it's exactly what I'm doing right now that I'm teaching on my podcast. I teach little bite-sized encouragement, simple, very simple daily habits. Sometimes even your mindset can change your entire day.
Yes.
Spotting your mindset, removing from the situation, breathe just 3 minutes. And I see relationships between parents and children. Even though one of my kids have been playing softball, and we always go and support her. And even though these last couple of days, I hear parents how they talk to their children, and the consequences that this can have, the impact that this can have, and the relationship. How the children talk back to the parents.
Yes.
So if we are not intentional, and intentional, I'm talking about 1 minute. Sometimes it's seconds.
Yes.
And literally every time we do that, I make sure I have 1 minute, one-on-one. At least 1 minute, one-on-one, listening, be present.
Yes.
And you know what? I'm making deposits.
Yes.
And you see, and I'm a testimony. Now I see those deposits that I'm making. If I don't feel good, they quickly come and I fix your tea. Stay there. Don't move. They bring me a blanket. And Mother's Day, one of my daughters, I spend almost all my money, but I know that you like beautiful pins. I know that you like. So those are the deposits that I'm making.
Yes.
So
you're going to make me cry.
Yeah, those are the transformations that I really, really want for my listeners.
It's so true. It's so, so true. And I talk about this often because I love being a mom, right? But when I started my business, it was very hard. And I said, I wrote it down. I am a loving and patient mom. Because there were times when I was like, I didn't feel patient. I didn't feel like I had the time that I wanted with them, right? I was starting to run a business, which was totally brand new and foreign to me. I can teach anything, right? That was easy. But like the behind the scenes stuff was hard. And then I have a 3 and a 5-year-old while I'm trying to start it. And I felt like there were interruptions all the time, right? And I will remember just praying for that peace, that patience, that kindness that I wanted to continue to show my kids. Like I was already showing it to them before, but the business was distracting me from that. And I had to realign. What is the priority here? They are the priority. They've always been the priority. And I need to make sure that they know that up front all the time, every day. Like I would get annoyed when they would come in the morning, right? I'm getting up at 5 a.m. and I'm trying to work for 2 hours before they should be getting up at 7, right? But of course, those mornings they would be getting up at 6 a.m. or 5:30 and I'm like, no. Like, so then there's, you can see it, right? I was already upset and I wasn't necessarily upset with them. I was upset that I didn't get more work done, right? And then I had to make that switch and I had to say, no, I want my face to light up when they walk into the room. I want them to know that they can come sit in my lap every single morning and that I'm happy to see them every morning. So it was a small shift, but it was huge. Because when they walk into the room, you want to light up. You need to light up for them because you're everything to them, you know? And yes, all of those small little moments, they add up. All of the words, all of the conversations, you know, a lot of times I talk about getting down to their eye level. That is something that as a teacher, I always did that. And even for the students that I tutor and my own kids, now they're my eye level, but
Yes.
right? Like, so now we can look, just stand there and talk. But before, even my own students that I work with, I get down to their level and I say, what's going on? How you doing? And they feel seen and they feel heard. And then they're like, oh, they're actually listening to me. They want to know what's going on instead of being brushed off. Like, you're fine, get up, you're okay. And so I am totally in alignment. And that's why I said we have so much alignment here that we can really be sharing. So my question to you would be, you see these families, right? And you hear the conversations. We all are hearing them everywhere that we're at. And maybe our listeners are having these conversations, these moments of they're saying things that they're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Or their kids are saying things back to them. And they're like, wait a second, how did we get here? So what is a piece of advice that you would give a family that is kind of in that situation? They're like, the words are not coming out the way that they want them to, and the words that are being received are definitely not what they want to be hearing.
Yes, it's a great question because it happens, and it happens sometimes in my house, to be honest.
Yes.
Like sometimes it's like, okay, I am so overwhelmed that I don't respond nicely, or my kids too, especially because pretty early preteen seems like they start having the attitude.
Yeah.
So what do we do? How do we repair? How do we change? First is to be honest to ourselves, introspection, and then just to acknowledge that we are wrong. Because sometimes I come to my children, it's like, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I was in a hurry. So right there, you bring that barrier down.
Yep.
And then just communication. In this house, we are going to talk with respect.
Yes.
And when, then is the phrases that I use a lot. When, then. When you are ready to talk to me in respectful manner, then we can talk.
Yes.
So very clear, acknowledging first if you emotional, if you are not balanced or speaking in a nice way, in a respectful way, so just apologize and then just put yourself back together. Like, hey, I need a minute. I need a moment. I need a minute. Sometimes I do that. Like this week, I did with my daughter. I came from walking, and she was ready to have me time, love, to hug me. But I was so sweaty. I need some time. Give me a minute.
Yep.
And then I was ready for her.
Yes.
And just communicating. And
absolutely.
This is what I am expecting from you. And respect is one of our key words that we're going to be living on. And sometimes parents will say, I say so because I'm the parent. So it doesn't work that way.
Nope. I can't stand that phrase. And that was something that, I was like, we're not saying that in this house. Like, and that was something even as I taught, I was like, that is not how you earn respect. They're still humans. You have to give respect and they have to give respect. It's a two-way street.
Yes.
I am so aligned with that for sure.
Yes, I think I answered your question.
Yes, you did. And I have a couple things to add in here. So one, you were talking about, let's go back to Mother's Day a little bit. You were talking about how your daughters just, brought all of these things to you. Like, I know you love these things. Here, Mom, have your tea, have your, right? I remember when my kids were even young, right? Like 5. And if I was having an emotional moment, right? Like they are still figuring out their emotions, but it was so amazing for them to see my emotion. And they said, hey, Mom, I see that you're whatever. They didn't know the word overwhelmed or anything like that. But hey, Mom, how about we turn on one of your favorite songs and we just dance around? And I was like, whoa, I am learning to regulate my own emotions, but they're understanding how to also help regulate and how to, balance. And I thought that was so incredible, and I've seen that. I've continued to see that, but you're absolutely right. Like in the moment, those things happen. And I have a funny story that just happened recently, and it was with my husband. It happens to me all the time, but this one just happened to be with him. And he is like so even keel, like he doesn't, he's just very just calm all the time, right? Yes. So for it to happen to him, it was kind of comical because then I had to talk to my kids, right? So they go and get this ping pong table from in our neighborhood. And he didn't strap it down. Like if you were going across country, across town, you're going to strap it down. You're going to hit bumps, all these things. He's like, we're just going to the house. It's not very far. He straps it down, but not enough. And the kids are in the car. They're all excited. They're like pumped that we're getting this ping pong table, And as he makes the last turn, the thing falls over, and now it breaks, like the hinges break, pieces of it break off, and the kids, like they're just like responding. They're like, oh, Dad, like what happened? It broke. And he's like, stop talking. Like he was like, yeah, I'm going to make you walk home. And the kids come home and their faces were just so like, so upset. And I was like, what happened? They were like, Daddy yelled at us and told us he was going to make us walk home in our socks. And guys, it wasn't even that far, okay? Right? But it was so out of the ordinary for my husband to react that way because he does not, right?
Yeah.
I was the reactor and I've had to unlearn. And I'd like to talk about that part too, right? Because we have to unlearn these behaviors that we saw growing up that, or even in society, right? So we have to unlearn these. So he's not the reactor. I typically was, right? So in this case now I have to talk my kids down and say, listen, how whenever mommy is overwhelmed and busy with work or I'm short on time, that makes my emotions and my responses shorter than they would normally be. I was like, Daddy really wasn't mad at you. He was more upset that this thing fell, that now it broke, that, now he's got to take the extra time to fix this, And it was just having that conversation with them to understand that sometimes it's not about you. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's so many other things going on and we react so quickly when we don't mean to, know? And then just like you were saying, like leading into that conversation of, yes, then apologize and have that conversation like, no, this had nothing to do with you. I am sorry. I should have tied it down more, and being able to have those conversations, I think it really helps them grow emotionally. And that is how it's always been for us. Like have those conversations. If they were acting up in a store, I would say, we're going to talk about this later. Mm-hmm. And it may not have looked like I was reprimanding them or disciplining them for their behavior, but you better believe when we got in the car, they knew that they were having a serious conversation and they knew that that was not the behavior that I expected of them and that they continued to improve that behavior over and over again, right? I didn't have to make a scene. I didn't have to raise my voice. Trust me, sometimes I do raise my voice and I don't mean to, right? It happens, but there were definitely pivotal moments you can like remember and you can say, you know what? I didn't have to raise my voice. I didn't have to embarrass them. I didn't have to make a big production because you weren't paying attention in the store. No, we're going to talk about this. And then they learn the lesson because then also, just like you were saying, we're emotionally more stable at that point, right? They're not all wound up because they're in the store. I'm not all upset and embarrassed and flustered because I'm in the grocery store. Let me get the groceries. Let me get things back in the car and then let's have a conversation. And I remember even sometimes I would turn the music on and I would say, I'm not ready to talk right now. Like I need a moment. And when I'm ready, then we'll have a conversation. But they knew and they weren't going to say anything until we were ready to talk, So yes, let's talk about that more. And let's also talk about, what were we talking about? The reacting. Mm-hmm. I would love to hear your perspective on that and any other, instances that you have seen as a mom raising, teens, preteens, and helping families that are in these situations.
Yes. Sorry. It's very important to understand the stage that your child is first. because from birth through 7 years old is one stage. From 7 through 13 is different. From 13 and so forth as a teenager is different. So our parenthood needs to be adapting, needs to change. And as you were saying, those situations that I have seen when we are at the store and just little kids are reacting and then just parents just throws off. I think everything started at home. Practicing routines, logic, consequences at home.
Yes.
So whatever you practice at home is what you're going to get outside the home. So the reaction part, yes, this can happen because right now we live in a very fast pace. So it's very, very simple. Spot it. You can spot it. Like starting with yourself, you can spot it like, okay, I'm going above the limit that I have set for myself. Spot it.
Yes.
Awareness is a huge part of the process. Awareness.
Yes.
Like you are aware, and then you can avoid a lot of problems and consequences or the guilt as a parent. So awareness. Oh, I'm feeling this way. The best and easy way is you can let your children know, I need a moment. You can verbalize, I need a moment. Or you can remove yourself. Sometimes you don't have to verbalize, depends on the situation. Remove from the scene. Remove from the situation. Calm yourself. Calming yourself is very easy practice. Breathe.
Yes.
Talk to yourself. God, a small prayer. God, please help me slow down. Please help me have peace. Please help me have clarity. So those are, you will say, those are very simple. Yes, but they're very powerful.
Yes.
And sometimes simple things, they might seem simple, but when you execute it, it's not very simple because it takes practice. You need to reframe your pattern of behavior, of habits.
Yes.
Of habits of reacting and continue. Remove, come down. And sometimes if you put outside the situation and just seeing the situation, what happened, why it happened, and what needs to be done or addressed, either from your part, I'm sorry, depending how far you went, I'm sorry, or if you didn't mess up, just, okay, this is what happened, and then just address the situation after. Yes. But reaction is start with awareness, and it's very powerful. Yes.
So true. And that being aware is everywhere, I mean, we talk about situational awareness, as a safety aspect, but also awareness when your kids are playing, when they are working, like doing school. So we both are homeschool moms, and we can see that for our kids. You know what? I see that you're getting frustrated with this. One, let's either walk away from it, or two, let's look at a different strategy so I can show it to you in a different light. And yes, sometimes we have to have hard conversations, while we're in those moments, because it's like, I'm not upset that you're not getting this. I'm upset that you're not asking for the help. I'm upset that you're not just taking a breath for a minute and just looking and saying, listen, there's other ways that we can solve this problem, or we can, come up with a better solution. So I think that is so, so important, is just paying attention to our kids. Paying attention to their behaviors, to the way they're responding. And I think too, and we can talk more about this too, but also look at their diet, look at their water intake. Are they hydrated? Look at their sleep, like all of these things. And it goes for us too.
Yes.
If you're having too much sugar, there's going to be some problems and some consequences from that. Yes. Stay hydrated. Fruits and vegetables and whole foods are going to lead to better results. And we know that from a health perspective, but also from a mind perspective. Like I have seen that so much recently. And it's like the more whole foods I eat, the less processed foods I eat, the more clarity I have, the more I'm able to accomplish in a peaceful state instead of feeling like I'm a chicken with my head cut off all the time, you know? Like, so that I think is so important too. Like, it's not just one piece of the puzzle. There's so many pieces that play into a part with this, you know? So yeah, I just think this is so great. So let's see. Let me ask you if you have any specific questions for me, and let's see if there's anything else you want to just share about.
Yes. I would like to know, like, how do you manage the work life that you're having right now with your business and your parenting at home? Because kind of your children are on the stage that kind of early or preteens already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how do you manage their attitude or their behavior?
I love that. That's a great question. So this is something as we're transitioning into like summer mode, you know, all I keep thinking in my head is like school's out for the summer, like the song, you know, it just keeps playing in my head, even though my kids still work all summer. But it's just a different energy, you know, when it's summertime and we're at the pool every evening and, you know, it's just different. But the way that we're managing, and it's how we do it during the school year too, but it's definitely more loose right now, you know, but I have a checklist. We have multiple checklists, and the kids even made fun. They were like, Mom, are you going to make me another checklist? Like, this is what you do. And I was like, you're right. Like, I've got tons of them. Sometimes they're effective and sometimes we have to revise, you know.
Yes.
But they have, so from the very beginning, let's start with like even when they were young, that 3 and 5 years old, right? They had a checklist, right? And it hung on the wall and they knew what needed to be done. And at that moment, at that time as well, I was also rewarding them with a money system. So, okay, you know that when you get up, you need to get dressed. Here's your laundry basket for where your clothes go. So giving them a designated task and where it goes.
Yes.
And then they got dressed, got their teeth brushed their hair. And of course, at that time, I had already been doing those things for them, right? So now they're starting to build that independence. They want to do it on their own, right? So I'm giving them that freedom to say, you can do this on your own now. It may not have always been perfect, but it was okay. It was adequate, you know? And if we needed to go somewhere, I'd say, hey, let me just fix your hair a little bit. But if we were just home, it was adequate. If their clothes didn't match, I didn't care. You know, you got dressed for the day. I'm happy, you know? And so it was all of those little pieces at the very beginning, and they would get rewarded for those things. So all of that routine started to become second nature. I didn't have to tell them to get dressed anymore. I don't have to tell them to go brush their teeth. I mean, sometimes they need reminders, right? But, right, you know, so they know what their morning routine is, right? Because we've already established that years ago, right? Here's your morning routine. Here are your chores and the dishwasher and feed the dogs and all of those like basic things. Now, as we transition into summer, where they are a little bit more independent, even with their schoolwork, I say, okay, here's your schoolwork. Here's your checklist, right? So you need to get done this morning, obviously all your morning chores. Then you need to practice piano. You need to do your daily work that we have. You need to do IXL. So we have IXL. We do that as a just skill refresher. They have a retainer that they have to wear. So they know what's expected of them. And those are the things that they need to get done. And then I'm able to now work on my things, right? I have my time because they're working independently on their things. Now, if we were doing more one-to-one school, I would block some time off, and you have to be intentional with that time. And what I always share is you have to fill their cup up first before you go in and do your work, you know? And so we're going to sit down and we're going to do work together for an hour, and then you guys can do some independent work and I'm going to work for a couple hours, you know? So they feel like I had that one-to-one time with mom, And now I can go and I can either have a break, I can go do something creative, whatever that looks like for them. And now I have some intentional time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just finish with this, as we are transitioning right into the summer, this was a huge win this week even, So we're transitioning into summer. It's getting hot. They want to go to the pool. And I'm like finishing up my work for the evening. And I said, listen, if you go downstairs and make dinner, I'll take you to the pool afterwards. Like, I have to finish up what I'm doing. We'll eat and then we'll go to the pool. Sure enough, for the past 3 or 4 nights, they have made dinner and we've been able to go to the pool, and it's been great. I've been able to work and I feel accomplished. Dinner is made. I'm not eating at 8 o'clock at night because I'm putting it off. And then we're having family time at the pool, and all of these things, it didn't happen overnight. So many people ask me like, how do you get your kids to make dinner for you? And I was like, they've been in the kitchen with me since they were 6 months old. They have been seeing it. They have been seeing me model it for them. And now they're able to do it independently, and I feel like that goes for everything. They can do their own laundry because they have seen it happen. We have done it together over and over and over again. And now they have that confidence to be able to do it independently. So that's kind of how we are doing it here. I would love, from your perspective, how you guys are doing on your end, because you're in the same boat. Homeschooling, running a business, preteens, teens. How does that look for you guys?
Yes, I'm going to speak like the normal routine because kind of we are like more loose right now. We take summer off, but I usually have them to do something educational for the month of May. But usually, like, my kids have 2 calendars. One calendar shows usually Monday through Friday to-do list, like all the routines that you say, but they're already on their calendar, like even though some chores that they have to do at home, vacuum, their bedroom, making their bedroom, and things like that.
Yep.
I have another small calendar, if I say, like kind of logic consequences. Like if they're fighting, like even though I have something fun, like ouch, like no, you are not allowed to speak until you speak nice. So a routine, like my routine is structured, like for those moms who work. My routine is structured in 4 parts. So one part is me time. I have morning and night routine. That is me. I love to get up early in the morning, like 5 o'clock, have my coffee. Like I just enjoy having my coffee, like no distractions.
Yes.
And read my Bible and other things. And a second part of my day is I have everything motherhood and to covers everything. That is homeschooling, house chores, buying groceries, like all of that is structured in this part. And the third one is work. I assign work days, and it doesn't necessarily has to be at the same time, like every day varies, but I know when I'm working, I know when I'm cleaning, and even though it can be between, I can be full-time working or just working, house, working, children, electives, everything goes on that category. And the fourth one is fun, like something fun for us. So usually our routines go like that. And going back where you were saying, some people ask you, I took my kids for a cooking lessons. So when they were like 8 and 10, so you train them or you take them to someone to train them. And then you can assign. I mean, it's not a fully responsibility, but as you said, like sometimes if I'm busy, if I have a call, it's time for lunch, they don't need me. Right. And they are not going to cook only mac and cheese. They are going to cook a meal. Yes. They know how, and they know that they, as you said, they know they have to have vegetables, any vegetables. So kind of our day is structured like that. Like I have one day a week that I don't work. That's Thursday because we go to a co-op. So we have very clear what their responsibilities are, what they need to do before they have any leisure or TV or whatever pleasure they will have.
Yes.
So they know A has to be done before B can accomplish.
Yes.
So my day kind of runs smoothly.
Yes.
Not perfect.
Right. Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think too, by breaking it up into those sections, your brain then is able to say, okay, this is our home time. This is, our morning time, our morning routine, which I just told my husband about that today. Like, I do love to get up early and I don't like noise. Like, he came down and got breakfast and was starting to wash the dishes. And I was like, stop. I was like, one, I don't want to wake anyone up. And two, I'm sitting here quiet.
Yes.
I'm reading, I'm working out, I'm going to go for my walk, all those things. So yes, I do understand like that morning routine. Like we need that to really like, get ready for the day, And then by breaking it up and saying like, I started doing that, like Wednesday mornings are like, let's deep clean the house. They are able to clean their bathrooms and vacuum and all of those things, but like, let's make it that morning. And we know that we're doing that, So that's the expectation for that day. And I don't have to worry about work. And then, on the other days, like, yes, I'm working in the afternoon this day, or this is when we're going to have our designated school time, So I really do think that helps our brains to be able to stay focused on that task and not worry about all the other to-dos.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm very visual. So another tip that I think I can recommend is planning ahead. Like the night before or the morning, early in the morning, I know how my schedule looks like. If next week I'm going to have doctor's appointment, when I'm going to work. Like I'm very specific when I'm going to work. Right now I'm very flexible because we are kind of summer, but usually this is how it works. And another tip that I can give you is something that I'm learning. I'm in the process of implementing. Okay, I purchased like calendar only Monday through Sunday. It has display only Monday through Sunday. So I purchased a box, a very small box. So where I'm going to have cards inside with the name of a meal. So I don't need to be thinking.
I love it.
Spaghetti, hamburgers, chicken pie, I don't know, chicken with rice and vegetables. So you can start doing Saturday or Sunday mapping. Just put it with that in your calendar that you put. And if it's magnetic is even easier. Mine is magnetic. So just put a magnetic piece on it. So you will be seeing what we're eating this week.
Yes.
And what I'm trying to do is even just put like 2 weeks, even though we can repeat like 2 weeks. So we know what we're eating this week, and it doesn't have to be to T, but it's kind of an idea.
Yes.
Or we can even switch, but it's kind of an idea. And if you can see the second week, you know what to go and buy for groceries for that week.
Right.
So I'm trying to do both. So I'm in the process to establish that, so I don't need to be thinking, what are we eating tomorrow?
Right. Because that is definitely a question that we did not realize as moms, that would be a question every day, 3 times a day,
yes,
right? What's for breakfast? What's for lunch? What's for dinner? And, by having some ideas, at one point I was like, here are all your breakfast ideas, here are all your lunch ideas, and here's dinner ideas,
yes.
So yes, it's so true. Like we do all of our planning on Saturday. So then that way, when we go to the grocery store on Sunday, we have all the meals planned out for the week. And then I also look at like, what does my day look like that week? Are we going to be out running errands? Well, I want an easy meal because I don't want to I don't have time to be in the kitchen,
Yes.
Or am I going to be home all day? Great. I'll wrap up work early and then I'll be able to try this new recipe, So just making those realistic expectations too of like, what does your schedule actually look like?
Yes.
So I love that. Oh, so many great things. All right, let's wrap up and let me hear if you have anything else you want to share, you want to add, another question. What do you got?
Well, my last thing I want to say is it's very easy to feel overwhelmed. It's so easy because there are so many demands, and with social media, with all the distractions that we have, Netflix, video games, or whatever your passion is, it's very important to have a structure.
Yes.
Just have a structure. Just download everything that you have to do, especially if you're working. If you're a working mom, like write down everything you have to do. And I can really, really recommend delegating, using delegating,
Yes.
eliminating.
Yes.
And sometimes you need to say no.
Yes. Oh, so
Do
good.
you want to do this? Do you want to go here? Do you want to help me with this? Sometimes, and if it's very hard for you to say no, you can say, "Let me think about it."
Mm-hmm. It's so true. I had a friend tell me, and I think I shared this before, but I had a friend tell me, say, even though your calendar doesn't have anything on it, it does not mean that you're available. You're allowed to say, no, you know what? I don't really want to do that. And that was something that I think before 2020, my calendar was full, jam-packed full. And I was putting myself into this anxiety attack, of like, how do we stop this? Like, I don't understand what to do. There's always an event. There's always something going on. There's always a birthday party. There's always a this, right? But you have to protect your family life. You have to protect the peace, because if not, it will just be taken up, and people will fill up your time. Trust me, So you have to be very, again, intentional. I think the theme is intentional, confidence, all awareness. I mean, I think we hit on some really, really good things this episode.
And just habits. Because
yes.
neuroscience has proven that you can change the habits, even though those have you learned when you were at home with your parents.
Yes.
So you can change those habits, but you have to be intentional. And, sometimes my kids are those who want to take my time. What are we doing tomorrow? What are we doing tomorrow? Can we have this party? Can you take me here? Can you take me there? And many times I say yes, but many times I say no. I say, it's my time.
Yeah.
Like we already did this. It's my time.
Yes. Yeah, because it's very easy for us to push our things off, especially moms in business sometimes, it's like, oh, we'll get to it another day, and then another day happens and another day, it's very easy. So yes, you have to make sure that everyone knows. Again, we talked about communication. I think that's so crucial as well. You have to have communication with your spouse, your children, and these are the expectations. This is what is happening. So, oh man, we could go on and on.
Yes.
I know that we could. So we might have to do a part 2 at some point. But can you tell my listeners where they can find you?
Yes. If you want to work with me and do you want some clarity, how to put your systems in place and organize, even though you're a working mom, you just can go to confidenceinmotherhood.com, or if you want some simple daily habits, very, very small tips that I share, just go to my podcast, Confidence in Motherhood podcast. And I'm having a workshop in less than 2 weeks, June 3. This is going to be 11 a.m. Eastern time. Just go to confidenceinmotherhood.com/workshop and just sign up. And it's going to be very, very, very fun. And I will share some good information and tips there.
Awesome. All of those all of those links to reach Miriam, those will be in the show notes, so you guys will have access to them. And for me, if you guys are listening, well, the first thing is I would love for you to join the Home Education with Ease Facebook group. So in that group, we are really helping you to, raise kind, independent, confident kids. Obviously you guys are seeing the theme here. This is really what's very passionate for both of us, helping you on all sides. For me, it's really helping you to balance that homeschool aspect of it all. How do I teach my children? How do I, teach them these skills? But also, how am I confident in teaching what they need? And that we talk a lot about that. I also have the Home Education with Ease membership coming up, so stay tuned for that. I will share a link there as well. That will be launching in June, which is right around the corner here. I can't even believe it. And just feel free to reach out on all the social media platforms, Christine Furman, as well as EduPlay Learning, and you'll be able to kind of see the side of it where I am the mom doing all the things, in a business, but then also EduPlay Learning is all about the curriculum, hands-on learning, and just making it fun, meaningful, and individualized, because every family has their own individual needs. So we need to make sure that we're taking that into account and making room for that. Well, thank you so much, Miriam. Any final things you want to share before we wrap up?
Well, I'm very excited that our listeners are going to have a good information, and just to stay tuned and just keep following us.
Well, thank you.
Tips.
Thank you so much, Miriam. This was absolutely wonderful. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Home Education with Ease podcast. I hope today's episode left you feeling empowered and ready to take the next steps on your home education journey. Your support means the world to me. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. For even more resources, be sure to join the free Facebook group, Home Education with Ease, and visit eduplaylearning.com to explore our programs and subscription kits. You can find the links and any other links mentioned in this episode in the show notes below. Remember, you're not alone. This community is here to support you every step of the way.